Let's welcome our second presenter at this panel, is Dr.朱翹瑋. Dr. Chu is an assistant professor in environmental humanities and Chinese studies at Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. His research focuses on environmental humanities, eco-criticism, and contemporary cinema and visual arts in Asia. He is an executive counselor of the Association for the Study of Literature and Environment and living lexicon editor of the open access journal Environmental Humanities by Duke University Press. His work has appeared in transnational eco-cinema, eco-media, Journal of Chinese Cinemas, Asian Cinema, Chinese Environmental Humanities, Photographies, Scene, and elsewhere. And the topic of Dr. Chu's presentation today is Feng Shui and the civil alternative, eco-civilization, geomancy, and ecology in Chinese cinema. Let's welcome Professor Chu.
Okay, so yeah, first let me give my thanks to Professor Low and Professor Yang for the invitation to this wonderful symposium. And as I have to declare, this is really a quite preliminary project of mine, and I'm keep trying to challenge myself by taking up something new to me. So this is by no means a thorough study of the Feng Shui cinema, nor am I an expert in Chinese geomancy to begin with. But this project, which I hope to engage in, is to will include some reflections and thoughts on samples of some films and documentaries that center on Hong Kong, or at least partly Hong Kong productions, which I hope could be further theorized in the near future. So I would like to invite you all for comments and suggestions during the Q&A session. So in this study, I will try to approach Feng Shui mainly from its cinematic and cultural perspectives. And my project wishes to explore how Feng Shui can be read as cultural reflections that show us people's changing attitudes and perceptions towards politics and society, and also towards ecology and the environment over the past few decades. So seeing Feng Shui more than just superstition or a form of pseudo-science, my project hopes to explore how Feng Shui or Chinese geomancy plays a role in the building of civil alternative ecological civilization in mainland China, Hong Kong, and the broader Chinese-speaking world. So the discussion will not focus much on Feng Shui as a practice, but more on Feng Shui's cinematic representations, as well as the socio-environmental and cultural significances. And in brief, what I wish to do with my paper I would say can be summarized in 3 points. First of all, I would like to talk about Feng Shui as a form of eco or environmental mediation. So more specifically, I wish to argue the role of an contemporary Feng Shui as a form of environmental mediation, a mean of siting, designing, and restructuring space and environment organically to bring about balance, order, health, and other positive impacts to human and non-human inhabitants. And then secondly, I would like to offer an overall assessment of the representation of Feng Shui in a range of Hong Kong films and documentaries that are produced since the 1990s. So focusing on a range of these films, which include the likes of, I may not be able to discuss all of them today because of the time restriction, but then these are some of the films that I've recently seen, and also some of the sample text that at the moment I'm trying to focus on. And the paper examines how cinematic texts reflect Feng Shui's mediation, which shapes the dynamic relationships among humans, non-humans, and the 5 elements in the architectural and urban spaces of the post-colonial Chinese city. So, and then thirdly, I will try to raise the question, do Feng Shui films actually facilitate us in understanding the notion of Feng Shui better, or do they actually offer more misunderstanding than not? And then lastly, I would also try to explore how Feng Shui can be seen as a kind of narrative of resistance, and how does it also try to offer something that is towards the bottom-up and civil alternative ecological civilization. So I'll try to illustrate in these examples how cinematic representations of common beliefs and practices of Feng Shui can often be seen as a narrative of resistance. And ultimately, I wish to examine whether Feng Shui narratives could help to contribute to the creation of an effective world of multi-species entanglement at a time characterized by climate change and environmental crisis, thus contributing towards the building of a bottom-up ecological civilization. Okay, so Feng Shui, in summary, it's a concept that is stemmed from the ancient art of geomancy, and it is concerned with the relationship and interplay of buildings with the natural environment, including mountains, seas, and skies, etc. And it is generally defined that Feng Shui evolves from the simple observation that people are affected for good or ill by the surroundings. It is believed that every mountain, every building, every wall, window, or any corner and the ways in which they face, as well as the flow of wind and water, will all have an effect. In other words, if one detail in the surrounding is being, if one single detail of the surrounding is being changed, it could affect the overall dynamics and the interplay among all elements. So the aim of Feng Shui is therefore to change and harmonize the environment by maintaining a balance among different elements. In her paper titled "Of Dragons and Geoengineering, Rethinking Elemental Media," Yuriko Furuhata uses the example of the Repulse Bay and its ventilating dragon hole to explain the Feng Shui principle of not cutting off good energy flows, and she also describes the holes which let mythical dragons fly through the buildings. She states that in addition to the Feng Shui legend, the stunning architectural features also have the pragmatic effects of increasing air ventilation and creating breezeways. Letting high-rise buildings breathe through these dragon holes is one way to facilitate the external movement of the tropical air and create an optimal air environment in Hong Kong's densely built urban space, a space where cosmology and engineering come together. This is taken from her words. So I guess it is not something that is new to us, people who are from Hong Kong, that we do have quite a few of these buildings, residential buildings particularly, and also some commercial buildings where they have these kind of holes on them. So in one of the short video installation that I've seen, which is titled "From Its Mouth Came a River of High-End Residential Appliances," which I think I can also try to show briefly, maybe a few seconds of the clip. So in this short, let me try to just play it while I describe the video. So artist Wang Shui's work. This is a 30-minute video. And in his work, he threw a drone camera over the Dragon Gates of Residence Bel Air, which is a luxury residential complex in the southern district of Hong Kong. And that as he stated, he was trying to chase the dragon and to replicate the mythical creature's journey. So from the short film, we actually see his contemplation and his philosophical exploration of Feng Shui and more in the video. As you can see, he's also slowly moving towards the hole, and basically the first half of the short clip of the short film goes like this. So coming back to the slides. So Ulrich Hatter also call these kinds of architectural designs and enchanted techniques of elemental control, which she suggests is a desire to manipulate the environment by generating breezes in one case and by halting stormy winds in the other. And in short, these techniques are ritualized forms of weather control. However, more than just controlling the weather and the 5 elements, I would add that Feng Shui is a practice of broader environmental control. And more than just control, it is more precisely a form of mediation, an environmental mediation that does not simply control, but also mediate and regulate the interplay between human activities, the physical space and environment, and the 5 elements, which include fire, water, earth, etc. In order to achieve an optimal conditions for both humans and the non-human world. So moving on from that short clip and also the discussion on Feng Shui, I would like to focus on a few commercial films. So what I would like to ask is, do cinematic representations enable us to understand Feng Shui's effect in environmental mediation? And in my study so far, Feng Shui seems to remain, by and large, a visual gimmick or spectacle that often rely on mythical animal symbolism to re-enchant the urban landscapes that have been disenchanted by modernization and capitalist expansion and development. And obviously, this also depends on the genre of the film. And I would definitely hope to hear from you whether there are other, there definitely are other kinds of films that also addresses Feng Shui in one way or another, particularly in a lot of the horrors from the 90s, 80s and 90s. I guess they also addresses Feng Shui in a different way. But then here, what I'm showing what I'll be focusing on are basically 2 comedies, romantic comedies. And then if I have time, I can also talk a little bit about Wisely's Bury Me High, which is a slightly older film from the early 90s, an action film. But from these films, I would say they actually rely a lot on mythical animal symbolism. And then and also, but still, we could read behind the multiple layers of these sumovized environments and to examine changes in the socio-political significance of these Feng Shui representations, which have often been neglected. So on the first level, what we see in these films, we often see good Feng Shui. It's being depicted in the form of an enchanted and utopian vision of multi-species coexistence. So to make complex cosmological concepts easy, Feng Shui and the 5 elements are often visually depicted with computer-generated mythical beings. So from here, in this Hong Kong director Vincent Cook's 2017 film, 2 Wrongs Make a Right, 天生不對, we have a protagonist who's played by a Taiwanese singer, Vic Chow, Zhou Yuman. And he is a handsome and successful Feng Shui master named Ray. And is hired by a multi-billionaire to examine whether the piece of land is suitable for his leisure park development project. So in the film, Ray takes out his digital Gang, the Feng Shui compass, which we see is also a kind of what Winnie has just mentioned, the kind of scientific gaze and also a kind of scienticization. As a way of showing or justifying the authority of and in this case is the authority of Feng Shui, because quite in a lot of these recent films we do see that they do need science and technology to justify that it is not just a kind of superstition. So in the film we see that Ray takes out his digital Gang and activates its holographic display. And immediately it connects our protagonist with the planets above. planets above, and enables him to see the harmonious cosmic order. So we also see through Ray's eyes the mountains and the rocks that are being animated and transformed into the azure dragon, the roaring tiger, the vermilion bird flying on the sky, and also the black tortoise, which are the four auspicious species that represent good fortune. So the black tortoise even turns to Ray and greet him with a "What's up?" Like an old friend would do. So the scene also suggests that the land is being blessed and safeguarded by friendly mythical beings. In the film, Ray also calls them good old friends when he sees these creatures appearing in the sky. So it has become commonly understood in Chinese films that these so-called supervised landscapes, that is the landscapes and the environment that have been attributed with animal-like behavior and mental states. When they are in good terms with the human beings, it is a reflection of a place with good feng shui. And instead of making us understand more specifically the connections between humans and the elements like water, wind, and the environment, which is what feng shui is really about, this film makes use of animal enchantment and utopian vision of multi-species coexistence to stand in for what good feng shui really means. A similar example can also be seen in another better known but older Hong Kong film, also by Vincent Koch from 2003, My Lucky Star, Hangwan Qiuyang. While it is shot 14 years apart, the two romantic comedies they share very similar plots, and one could even see his more recent work, Two Wrongs Make It Right, as a remake of this commercially more successful My Lucky Star. So the latter film, however, does aim to address the newer film, Two Wrongs Make a Right, does actually make a better effort in addressing a wider Chinese audience outside of Hong Kong, as we can tell from the casting of a typically diverse crew member from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and also mainland Chinese actors, etc. Despite the fact that both movies are of rather questionable quality, or perhaps it's just my problem that I'm finding these rom-coms pretty cheesy. What I like about My Lucky Star is that it is still very much a Hong Kong movie with a Hong Kong crew. We even have a cameo by the leading feng shui master, Peter So-man Feng, in the movie, who is also the film's feng shui consultant. But more importantly, the film has a much deeply rooted or deeply grounded plot and numerous cultural references that are specific about Hong Kong of its time. The film features several scenes that address specific Hong Kong landmarks, as well as depicting well-known geomancy tales of their places. So one of them is the folk legend of the stone turtle of the Victoria Peak. Rumors has it that there is this sacred stone turtle that is seen on the side of the Victoria Peak. So it is in the shape of a turtle. And each year the turtle would climb 1 meter higher. And on the day it reaches the peak, it will be the day that Hong Kong collapsed and sinks into the bottom of the sea. So that's how the legend goes. And it has been told for decades, and it's widely known to generations of Hong Kong people. Of course, very few people would actually take it literal to mean the total destruction and disappearance of the city, but many have taken it as a metaphor that hints at Hong Kong's economic collapse in the near future. And because of that, it is said that in fear of Hong Kong's economy might suffer a downturn after the handover in 1997, the government decided to build the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center along the Victoria Harbour in the shape of a turtle. So that is also, let me see that. It's also being depicted in the conversation in one of the scenes in My Lucky Star. As we can see, this convention center is built in the shape of a turtle, and the establishment was built opposite the Hong Kong Space Museum in the other side of the harbor, which also has the shape of an egg. Some argues that this is a feng shui design to resemble a mother turtle watching over her egg. Thus, she won't be climbing anywhere further. So according to the feng shui experts, by grounding the stone turtle along the coast, it would have broken the stone turtle curse, which is also an effective way to ensure the future stability of Hong Kong. Although some people have already argued against it and say that Hong Kong is now suffering in various ways. So while these feng shui tells heavily, shows their heavy reliance on animal imageries, and it's a common belief that a world of multi-species coexistence is an exhibition of good feng shui. We should also question whether such zoomorphic depictions are necessarily the most appropriate interpretation of a place feng shui, or could it be more of a distraction from a greater focus on humans' actual relationship and our understanding of the environment, as well as the material elements like water and wind and earth, etc. So how much time do I have? A few seconds more. I guess with the shortage of time, I'll try to just skip over some examples and address a few of the questions that I actually have raised earlier. So one other question that I would like to talk about is whether feng shui can be seen as a force of resistance, or whether in these films whether feng shui can be seen as something that is beyond superstitions and instead offer a kind of narrative of resistance. So I've tried to illustrate with my examples the cinematic representations of common beliefs and practices of feng shui that can be seen in some forms of narrative of resistance. I haven't got time to discuss this older film from 1991, which is a film that is quite shortly after the 1989 Tiananmen incident, and also I would argue it kind of shows the collective anxiety of Hong Kong people towards the unforeseeable future, and also uses feng shui as a mean to fight against. In the film, it is a fictitious country in Southeast Asia where we see a totalitarian control, and how the protagonists actually play around with feng shui in order to resist the regime. And then from that, moving on to the post-1997 film, which I discussed, Hang Wen My Lucky Star, which actually shows a kind of post-1997 optimism and the longing for a better future. And then in Two Wrongs Make It Right, which is produced in 2017, we see a relatively rather confusing and weak effort in using feng shui, but then it is consistent in a way that it tries to use feng shui to as a tool to keep everything in balance. So in all these different films, what I'm trying to argue is that they actually represent feng shui in a way that is a kind of cultural construct that reflects the political anxiety and also political and social collective understanding of the time. And what I want to argue is that cinema also play a role in interpreting and representing. Okay, 1 minute left. Interpreting and representing and also reinventing feng shui in ways that facilitate the building of an alternative space. So I didn't get a chance to talk about the documentaries, but then maybe during the Q&A, I can try to explain a little bit more about some of these examples. So I'll just stop here and talk to you later. Yeah, thanks a lot.